Hello. How many have heard of b8ta already? All right, cool, sweet. Yeah, I'm not going to talk too much about it. Just going to talk about a little bit about how I think about retail, and I think I have a pretty different perspective on it than most people. Why should you trust what I'm saying? You shouldn't. You should make your own judgment. But I think I used to work at Nest, and I helped Nest build their retail professional distribution, their e-commerce site, and so building a sort of large-scale hardware startup, you learn a lot of things, and I think you also realize how different a company operating at a couple $100 million run rate at retail, how differently they think from a much smaller company. Okay. So it's crazy that I have to even suggest that brick and mortar may not be some hardware startup's primary go-to-market strategy. And yet I hear all the time, I'm going to do my Kickstarter, I'm going to sell on Amazon, I'm going to sell on my own website, and retail is going to be a couple years down the road. Sorry, and move forward. Can you see me here? Oh, you meant edge to edge on this thing. Okay, sorry. I thought you meant on the screen. All right. And it's crazy because brick and mortar is significantly bigger than e-commerce. And although we hear almost exclusively about e-commerce, if you're reading all the tech blogs that I do, e-commerce is super small. And in fact, brick and mortar retail every year adds more in retail sales than all of e-commerce combined every year. So it's still big and it's still growing, and you should really think about that. I think the other thing, especially if you're a hardware company, there are things that stores can do to talk about your product to new customers that your website can't, right? You can engage them with your product demo. You can have someone talk about it as an expert. And this is most important, and I think most of my talk will sort of center around this idea. Today, demand fulfillment is really a solved problem. Anybody can get anything from anywhere on the web in stores. Retail is really changing to a demand generation platform versus fulfillment. And this is a quote from a VP of marketing at a major hardware company. I actually changed the quote to make it less sensitive, but she told me that when they got placed in Best Buy, pretty much the week after, their Amazon sales had doubled. So the effect of retail on your e-commerce is really large, and I think most companies sort of ignore that. This is a confidential survey that we ran, and we asked people who bought our product online from our store, where did you first hear about this product? Where did you see it? Overwhelmingly, people found it in a store first. So they were literally just walking by in an aisle, and they saw one of our end caps or one of our displays, and that was the first time they saw the brand. So retail is super powerful. One more thing, this is from my data set at my store. So our store in Palo Alto, we record engagements and impressions on every single product in the store in real life. It turns out that engaging a customer in a store is really, really cheap. So these are the top 10 companies in our store in a month, and you can see that for a 25-second engagement, this is someone coming into the store, standing in front of a product and playing with the product for 19 to 25 seconds. They're paying basically pennies to engage that customer. You can imagine the cost of trying to get that same person to engage with your website for 30 seconds. It'd be much more expensive. So retail is also really cheap for demand gen. Okay. So I think that this misconception is driving a lot of dashed dreams online. That if I sell this product on my own website, I just make more money. And so I really don't want to give my product to a manufacturer. And of course, if you do this simplistic math and you sort of look at okay, well, I spent $100 to produce the product. If I sell it on my e-commerce site, I make 139 bucks. If I sell it to Best Buy, I only make 60 bucks because they took this large margin. I think this is wrong. I think the real way to think about your margin that you're giving to the retailer is as a customer acquisition cost for your brand. So when you sell your $100 product to Best Buy for $160, what you're basically saying is, Best Buy, can you convert a customer for $89 so I don't have to? And I think that changes a lot of things. So for example, now when you look at the cost of doing business at a retailer, you might want to compare your retail margin to your e-commerce performance. And you can see here, it might not be that different. So if you're retargeting a user, you're getting them to click on your Google ads, on Facebook, and I don't know if this is, maybe this is obvious, but if you think that your cost of acquisition is $1.50 because someone clicked an ad and bought your product right there and then, that's the wrong way to think about it. You have to multiply that by your conversion rate that similar people who clicked on that ad, what rate they converted at. That's your real customer acquisition cost. And the other thing I think people forget is conversion is probabilistic. So not everyone's going to convert at 2%, right? Some people will convert at 1%, some people convert at 4%. And so in some cases, your customer acquisition cost for a certain cohort of customers might be more expensive than you think. And the nice thing about when you sell into a store is that your customer acquisition cost is completely fixed. So whatever you sold it into, that's what it always is. And people also convert in stores at a much higher rate than they do online. So, you know, like typically e-commerce conversion rates, you know, if you're 2, you're good. If you're 3, 4, 5, you're excellent. Best Buy thinks about conversion rate as like 30 to 50%. So they're just order of magnitude different. And I wanted to show something. I don't know if we can pop on a browser. One of the ways that you can tell that retailers are really good at converting customers is that for almost every hardware company, I just use BlueSmart here, that's wholesaling into a retailer, those retailers are going online and competing against you for your own keyword. And so they're actually raising your customer acquisition costs because they think they can do it better and more efficiently. If you like type in buy Nest. So Best Buy actually is willing to spend even more than Nest is to acquire a customer. So I just think the way we think about margin is totally wrong. Let's go to the slides. Cool. Yeah, so customer acquisition costs. This is not going to apply to everybody, but honestly, if you're like an early stage startup and you're profiting from retail, like your price point is probably way too high. And I see that occasionally. Price point is the #1 most important thing that's going to determine whether a customer's going to buy your product. And I know that like a lot of when you're going to pitch a VC and you want to show them your margins and how great they are, I don't think that's necessarily a good thing. It's a good thing at scale, but when you're really small, you know, you have to realize your BOM is going to come down over time a lot, and so you got to consider that. And again, maybe this is well known, but almost every top hardware company I've seen has given away their product at launch time. So you have companies that have an MSRP of $250 or $500, and their actual BOM is $250 or $500. And they just expect over the next couple of years that price is going to come down. But they think strategically about their brand. They don't think of it the same way that other companies do. They think of brand as LTV. So as soon as you acquire that customer with that first product, and the product works, and it's good, that customer is now going to come to your website, and they're going to start spending more on accessories. They're going to buy your next gen. They're going to tell their friends. I think of brand as LTV. And when you're really early on, it's everything, and companies don't take enough care on that. In fact, so many companies just focus on like just the margin, the bottom part of the funnel to buy. Use stores to educate customers and generate awareness for your product. And those are those 3 sort of parts of this is like a consumer purchase journey or something. Yeah, some of the work we did. So, I mean, if anybody thinks that like Ness was profitable building these like beautiful end caps and then also selling and would sell enough product to make up for it, that's not true. But the net effect over time is great brand, sell customers on the next product, the next product, the next product. Yeah. So this is my framework for thinking about discover, engage, demo, buy. Again, when you talk to your buyer, instead of talking about and being so fixated on your margin, what they're buying, what they're paying for it, think about how is your product actually going to be found in the store? Like, how are people going to see it? How are you going to engage the customer? What does the display look like? Do you have a working demo? For example, we found that having a working demo versus a non-working demo and inside of a retail context lifted sales 61%. You know, our store associates know where your product is and they know what it is. Companies are spending millions of dollars sending field reps to stores to one by one individually train associates on their products because the retailers will not do it for you. In fact, they won't even check whether your inventory is on shelf. So companies like Apple during the holidays have basically every day are going to their top stores that are not owned by them and checking to make sure that inventory is on shelf because they lose so much money because the retailer is not paying attention. So some things to think about. How do you allocate a retail budget? It's expensive. I'm not going to lie to you. You know, for a really nice display in a store, you should expect to spend anywhere from $500 to $2,000 for end caps, and not every company will have the opportunity to do this, but you should be pushing for this and negotiating for this. You know, 50 to 250. Sometimes it's part of a big package, and so it's like $250,000, and you can have an end cap in 1,000 stores. Associate training, so that's hiring like a field rep, field merchandising agency, and having people go and train the retail staff. And the reason it's expensive is because retail staff turn over a lot, and so you constantly have to go back and retrain and retrain and retrain and refresh. Is this 20-minute time or 15? Okay. I didn't know if I had time, but I didn't have time to wrap all these up into different thoughts. Pricing is the most important thing. You should budget 15% for customer support and reverse logistics. It's really expensive, and can be even more than that if your product's hard to install. Smart home return rates are really high, so it's totally normal to have 20 to 30%. I'm not saying it's good, but that's how it is today. Yeah, a lot of companies come to us and like are super obsessed with building a professional installer network. It's an edge case for DIY products. Most customers just want to install it themselves. But what is really powerful is professional distribution. So if you can sell the installers on selling your product to the customer, that's a really great way to spend money. Because I just give the example, but like a $250 thermostat is 2.5% of a $10,000 HVAC installation job. And in some buildings, you might have 100 of them. And so it's totally worthwhile to find those HVAC installers and sell them on your product. MDF, every retailer tries to get you on MDF, market development funds. Companies don't spend them, and it's just a trick for the retailer to take a higher margin. Exclusivity. Every buyer is going to ask for exclusivity. You can't avoid that question. But if it's like a deal you can't say no to, just put a time cap on it, or give them like one SKU, like a color SKU that isn't available other places. I would never grant exclusivity for more than 6 months, probably. A hardware business model, I think, is still today really early. I think subscription is probably the future. I think Ben probably agrees with me on that. It's sort of like, we're sort of like in internet 1.0 and like software 1.0 business models where we just have this like one-time profit. This, I think, is Dropcamp's number of 50%, so it's worth building. Yeah, revenue, most of the revenue comes in Q4. Don't miss. And this is sort of bonus, but like, it just really bothers me. So every time I talk to hardware founders, like, please stop over-promising on your ship dates. It's like no successful brand has been built on customers from their very first interaction with your company, you not delivering on a promise like that. So I think it's really bad. Okay, quickly, sorry, beta. Beta is a software-driven approach to brick and mortar retail. So you can just sign up for it online and get your product in the store. So we built this beautiful store in Palo Alto. There's no buyers. You control your marketing, everything about the store online. You never have to come in. You just ship us the inventory. You put it on consignment. We don't take a margin. And we send you 100% of the profit from selling the product. All we do, we charge you a subscription every single month that you're in the store. And yeah, you have complete control over the presence, and we send you tons and tons of data about how your product is doing past the sale, so how people are engaging, how many demos we're giving, how many impressions we're giving you. You can run marketing campaigns against that. It's a totally new way to think about a store. Some more pictures. Yeah, if you want to sign up, bêta.com with an 8. Cool. Any questions? Thank you.
Maybe tell us a bit about the company. When did you start? All of the things where you are in the arc of building this.
Of bêta?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't. The median in the room. Yeah. So we launched our first store, and then this year we have a bunch more that are launching at the end of the year. So in lots of great locations, not New York City, unfortunately. We're also working with some other retailers, so you can get your product into their stores in a couple of days instead of a couple of years. We launched in December last year. Me and a couple other Nest guys, including the head of retail from Nest, and yeah.
And do you want to maybe just bring up that slide that showed what the store? Because I've actually been to that store in Palo Alto, and I think it's worth just spending a minute. It's like a geek dream. It's all the best connected products out there, and you can play with them, and you capture data about the interaction.
Yeah, so we take it. So when you ship us inventory, we take the first one out of the box and we put that on display. So you don't have to think about how your display is designed. It's a super cheap way of doing retail. It's also the best way to do retail for sure. Yeah.
Very good. Do we have? If we don't have questions, we'll use the opportunity to move on. You're going to be around after this for a bit?
Depends how quick the other speakers are. Right. I'll try to stay around. Thank you.
We'll do our best. All right. Thanks very much for being here. We appreciate it.